Good morning, everybody. We are back after Memorial Day. It is June 1st. Can you believe it? And it is time for Listening with Your Eyes here on LinkedIn Live, or you might be seeing us on YouTube or even Facebook Live as well. So my special guest today is a tax accountant, but we're not talking taxes because taxes are finished, and Lisa is glad to have that over with because, they were extended a couple times this year and last year. So it's time to get back to normal. But Lisa is one of the best connectors and networkers that I know. And I really wanted to talk about networking because we're moving into this new weirdness, for lack of a better word, of meeting people again. And what do we do and how might networking change? And we got really used to networking on Zoom, and there's a lot of we don't necessarily want to go back in person yet. There's still that, it was comfortable and I didn't have to drive or pay for food and all of that, those sorts of things. So we're going to talk all about networking and connecting because she's fantastic at that. But I want to give you a little bit of background. She's had her own business for 18 years, which is phenomenal, that she has been that successful. And the other thing that I really want to kind of promote for everyone today, and give us a shout out if you're here, is her online courses that she has. So she began, I'm going to put it in the chat here. I think there it goes. Hopefully it's showing up everywhere. TakingOnTaxesTogether.com is her service for answering questions and giving really great content out there. So educational programs so that you're not fearful of your taxes anymore and you really can make the decisions that you need to make, regardless of necessarily who you work with, or if you do them yourselves with some kind of TurboTax or something, you need to get rid of that money stress so that you can get back to your real life. And that's what Lisa is so great with. So as I said, let us know if you have questions or comments today. Shout them out for us. And I'm going to bring Lisa back. Here she is, Lisa Niser. Thank you so much for being here with us. So anything else that you want to talk about? Do you want to give a little more on your new venture, the Taking on Taxes?
Well, that one is the class that's on there is called What New Entrepreneurs Need to Know About Taxes.
Oh, okay.
And I've been talking about honestly for 6 years. And the pandemic kind of was the push I needed because I saw so many people pivoting and not knowing or understanding anything. And I hate surprises at tax time. So I put that on there. And the class, actually, it's funny because I can do it live, but it's on demand now because as you kind of said, after about 10 minutes, people's eyes roll back in their head when you start talking about taxes. So this, you can pause and take a break or come back and replay. So I like it. I'm really excited. It's priced, honestly, just to help people. But I'd love to do it live for people if they have it. But then I'm doing another project that I am working on is developing a program for attorneys to teach them about cash flow and how taxes work when you make partner or even like accounting firm potential partners, so that before they have to make that decision, which is so life-changing, they can understand and hopefully get either decide it's for them and get their money together, or decide maybe that's not for them and then have time to do that, because it's just not taught. And there's so much pressure once you become partner that you don't want the extra pressure of money and tax worries.
And figuring that out there, right? I mean, the number of people that I know, I feel like in my circle, which isn't huge with attorneys, but the number of attorneys that I know that kind of became partner and then spent a couple years doing it and then decided to leave and just open their own practice. I mean, there's quite a few that I can think of, definitely enough to fill a couple of hands worth, people that just decided that either the work-life balance or whatever wasn't right and that they just put out their own shingle and so that's great for people to figure that out ahead of time. I mean, there's so many things that we're really not taught in school that it's great that there are so many entrepreneurs out there and consultants now that can help us with all the things that we didn't learn, or, people like me that didn't go to any kind of business school ever and then decided to open their own business. That was
I think you have I don't necessarily think you need schooling to open a business. I think you need that behind you, but you need people skills. I mean, we're all in sales and marketing, no matter what your job title is, and that's the relationship and the networking is just relationship building. I don't have, people are like, oh, you could do my tax return. I'm not a transactional person. That is that's the least important part of what I do. It's the planning and the getting to know you and helping you understand stuff so you can make decisions that work for you. Well, that just comes from here, and you can be taught it if you're open to it. But even like what you do with the body language, how you present yourself has such a huge impact on your success.
Right.
Such a huge impact.
Well, and that's, one of the things that people ask me about a lot is that 30-second pitch or that initial impression, kind of thing, which is why I developed this whole like first impression session, where it's basically, a quick hit with me to figure out what people are thinking about you, and when you first sit down to meet them for coffee kind of thing. And so you being such a great connector, and if you haven't connected with Lisa on LinkedIn, you really need to, because we're going to get to her LinkedIn posts. But I loved the LinkedIn post that she posted yesterday about being on this show today. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This really easy breezy conversational, post that has a really great question at the end and got a ton of engagement. And, so there is a secret sauce to your authenticity and to what you bring to networking into the table. So I wanted to highlight you as a great example. So everybody needs to watch, but also like, because you've been successful at that end of it, like, is there something that you do? Is there a mental preparation before you go into a, say, networking group or something? Because one of the things that people usually ask me is, well, I don't like to go to networking groups because if I don't know anybody, I don't know how to break in, to like their little cliques and things. And that really is hard. Have you discovered anything when you go to those networking groups for the first time, you don't know anybody? What do you do?
Well, I think it's really mindset, because my mindset is I just want to get to know people. It's not like, oh, I have to get business or like, that is not, I just want to get to know people. You and I met through a wonderful women's networking group here in Chicago. And I actually started a committee called Community Outreach and Education because I wanted everyone to feel very welcome there and to be a community of givers, because I really believe you get by giving, right? So one of the things I like to do is I love to not go up to the groups. I like to talk to the person standing by themselves, because to be honest, they are so grateful and they're probably really interesting. They just don't know anybody. I mean, even the most confident person, if they don't know anybody, who wants to be like the little fish in a big circle? Like, don't you want to just one of the things that's hard about the pandemic ending is I do better one-on-one or in small groups. I don't do well in those big circles. So if you go in not expecting to get business, but just to build relationships or get to know a couple people, that really takes a lot of the pressure off, because everyone has always been so appreciative when I came up to them and be like, hey, is this your first time here? Do you know how things work? Not even just doing the salesy stuff, just talking. And then they'll be like, no, I just moved here. And then you get to know them. And, oh, this is how it works. Oh, thank you so much. Now I don't feel so silly anymore. Or I think that's a big part of it. If people go in, it's not called sales for a reason. It's networking. It's not sales, right? So I think if you go in saying, we would joke, because the program that we were a part of, you'd have a little casual networking, then you'd have your luncheon where you'd go around and do your little spiel with your business cards, and then there'd be a speaker. And there would be people saying, hey, I'm not renewing because I didn't get any business. And I'd be like, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm handing out my business cards. I'm like, I'm not giving you business. I don't know you. And then people would say, well, I already sat with them. I'm like, terrific. Get to know them better. I mean, it's really your mindset of, it's relationship building. And the relationships take time to build. So it takes multiple times of getting to know people till I'm not referring people to people I just met. It's my reputation on the line. I have to really feel good about you to share that. Because my clients, they'll use who I refer. You know what I mean? They trust me. So I kind of get to know you. And it's not just, do you put out, an estate document? It's is my client's style going to mesh with your style? And that's a bigger thing to think about, because no matter who you work with, lots of people can do what I do. Not a lot of people can do what you do, but a lot of people can do what I do. And so they're buying me and my style and way of doing it. Well, how do you know that if I'm just pitching you? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, right. And I think there's so much of that. And I think it's gotten better, honestly, in a lot of ways. But the handing out so many business cards, or I have removed myself from any group that had a lot of rules. That was like, you have to report in on the number of referrals that you've made in the past month before you come back to this meeting again, or else I can't. That's the pressure of that. Or then I feel like the referrals that I would be getting from the group wouldn't be very genuine. It would just be like, well, I have to report that I gave referrals, so I'm going to throw some people Allison's way. And then, and then you feel like you've just wasted my time, because now I had coffee, or at least nowadays, maybe a Zoom, maybe I spent 45 minutes on Zoom with this person. At least I didn't drive there and spend money on coffee. But, and so I think there's more groups maybe moving away from those rules and stipulations. But if you've invested in a group, and then you're investing in going and paying for lunch and all of those things, you need to make that next investment, which is following up with the people whose card you did get. And then, as you say, build the relationship. Because for me, particularly, most people aren't, they don't know that they're looking for, or that body language could even help them. I mean, that certainly isn't something that they're going into a meeting with me necessarily looking for. So it is kind of explaining what it is that I do, or getting to know them, so that down the line, when they go, oh, while I'm spending $5,000 to make this video for my homepage, maybe I should have Allison come. Maybe I should work with Allison for a session to make sure that I'm going to look good when I'm doing the video, that they will remember later. Now, I don't get things on the first try,
I don't either.
Longer. And I think for you, I always put those financial advisors, tax accountants, realtors in that list of, man, they have the hardest time networking when people say, well, what do you do? Because somebody then immediately they're like, oh no, I already have it. They automatically think, oh,
I don't care.
I already have the realtor. I already have a financial advisor. I already have an accountant. And for you, it's like, well, that's not the point, right?
Well, there's so much more to me than my work. Like, why can't I just get to know you? I mean, and it just came from where I came from when I joined the group. Is I work from home, and at the time, not everyone was working from home, and so I just wanted to be around people. I didn't even care what it was. I was like, I just want to be around people. But I also think it's interesting is that even if you have nothing coming and you don't think you're ever going to use that business, you don't know who they know. I mean, why are you writing people off? Maybe they're just a nice person, and who knows, down the road, they'll be like, oh, my friend is doing this. Oh my gosh, in order to stand out, you need to talk to Allison. Or, you don't know, just get to know them as a person. Put the business aside and make it relationship based, and it will come. I mean, I don't remember who told me, but they're like, you need to be networking all the time so that when the need arises, the relationship's already established.
So true. Do you keep some kind of spreadsheet or something? My problem is people are, when they do ask me, do you know as such as, I'm like, oh yes, wait a minute, I met somebody at this event. And then, that's usually where I fall down, is that I can't either remember their name, or then I'm trying to search for, where I recorded their business card.
LinkedIn has been I have to tell you, I love LinkedIn. It has been one of the greatest gifts of the pandemic for me, because I'm very fortunate, you're very fortunate. We can do business anywhere. Right? I mean, you're really anywhere, but mine's anywhere in the US. But I've made really great connections across the US. So now I have the person. If I have a state and local issue, I know who to send them to. If I have some fashion issues, I know who to send them to. I want a business coach. None of these people are in Chicago. Not a single one. Okay. It doesn't matter anymore. Right? So it's kind of easier in LinkedIn. One, because I'm interacting with them on a much more regular basis. I mean, we were talking about my LinkedIn, but I am very I've gotten to the point, and I've only been doing it, I think, since August. I recognize the people because I interact with them. I don't care about views at all. Like that is not my thing. I want engagement. Like I want to create posts that people have conversations on because that's interesting. A like is really boring to me. I'm like, I appreciate it. I'm not unappreciative, but like someone comments and says something, and then I can add some more information in, and then I can ask them a question. And I'm also I tell people, my business coach is great about this. If you don't know what you're doing, just comment on people's posts. You don't even have to post. I have not met a single person out there that is not appreciative of a quality comment on their post. Like,
yeah, oh, absolutely. To take a couple minutes to do that. And you're really great about always commenting to the comments. Sometimes I have to go back in like at the end of the day and be like, oh my gosh, did anybody comment on this? Because I haven't, I didn't keep up with it to follow along or to make sure that I was commenting on their comment. Kind of
makes
thing.
a difference. Now I happen to be in front of my computer all day. So I was like, oh, it's tax season. I don't want to let go do LinkedIn.
It's going to be more fun to comment on this comment. Yeah.
Right. But it's funny because, okay, so like I'm talking about taxes. Okay. And I have quite a following of people like talking about taxes.
Well,
right?
you give really great tax tips. I mean, seriously, people that are out there or watching the replay, like look, but tell Lisa where you saw that you saw her on this, because I don't know about you, but I have gotten really leery of and I know everybody's really getting on LinkedIn for the, the spammy messages. I'm not even talking those. I'm just talking about the, hey, I'd like to join your network, the generic one where they just go into their profile thing and and they have all these suggestions and they just say, yes, hit them all up. But then sometimes I do that accidentally because I'm like, oh, I'd like to connect with this person. And then I forget that I'm in the wrong place to add a message. And then it just sends the generic. And I'm like, duh, because I didn't want to just send a generic message. I always want to put I really enjoyed such and such post, or I see you're friends with so-and-so, those things, make a big difference. So if you want to connect with Lisa, you have to do it, but tell her where you saw her so that she'll know that you were, and that you're not just a random generic person, because I'm starting to get more and more from weird countries and things like that too. And I'm always like, well, would this be a really good connection? But I don't know. And is this even real, or are you a robot?
It is interesting. I'm very fortunate. I don't know if it's because I'm talking about taxes. I don't get too many weird DMs and stuff like most people. I've gotten a couple, and I do not sell to people. Like, don't do that. Right. Okay. Like,
well, it makes it hard for the rest of us, because when I like to send out to some people in my network, every month I do this, Tales Your Body Tells thing at the end of the month, just kind of for fun. And but I feel like when I reach out to them to say, hey, you might enjoy this. If you'd like to come, let me know and I'll send you the link. I feel like it ends up, it's hard for me to send those because so many people have ruined it by
that one, no.
by the robot sending these, salesy things out. That sometimes it makes I feel, and that's just my own, I don't know, my own mindset.
Yeah, I don't feel like that, but because like I love, so like the other thing I do is like, if I really like someone, I'm very supportive of them, and you don't have to buy from them to support them, right? So
great point. Did you guys hear all that? You don't have to buy from them. You don't have to feel like it's some kind of tit for tat thing. Like, oh, I'll take their little online course and maybe they'll take my little online course. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that. You can just, as you say, comment on their post so that it goes out to your folks, or share something that they wrote, or invite them to go with you to a networking event. I love to take a wingman with me wherever I go. It's so much more fun if you can. It's a great way to reconnect with people that you haven't seen in a long time, to invite them to come with you to a networking group that they're not a member of already. Or if you are already of the same group, say, hey, are you coming this week? Let's catch up. Let's get together a half hour ahead of time and catch up. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this post-pandemic, like where networking goes. Since so many of the networking groups went online, at least the ones that I'm a member of, they've also then expanded to different states and things. So they're going to always have to have an online presence of some sort, because people have paid, or maybe I don't know, where are they?
I think, it's funny because one of the challenges that I really had when the pandemic started is there's rules of engagement for Zoom meetings that we weren't taught. Okay. So like, you and I can have a conversation, but if you're in a room of 9 people, especially you get 9 women in a room, that is like one can't talk at a time. That is not a normal female like interaction. And then I would get exhausted because I'd be like so on and engaged and looking and smiling. And I'm like, okay, if you're in a conversation, you're not doing that, right? So like, I miss that. Like you could have little side conversations here and there. It's like it's one person at a time. You can't even get a word in. Like I didn't like it. Like I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
I like that personal stuff. So like I'm not going to not do it because I like meeting people all over. I just think it's been fantastic. But I like the one-on-one much better than like these big ones. I'm like, it feels. I don't. It's not me. It's kind of like what you're talking about with that other group with the referrals. I'm like, and that's okay. And actually, maybe one of the ways to like approach some of these networking things is this fit who I am? Are the type of people in the same place where I am? Are they, like, not everything's for you. That's fine. And figuring out what doesn't work for you or what kind of people it is the other thing. The other thing that I really learned is that the more you can niche down, I think it doesn't mean like you're not helping everybody. Like I can help everyone, but like if I want to niche down to like attorneys, it helps me focus my posts, my conversations, my everything. And here's the thing. Everybody knows attorneys. So like, they don't have to be an attorney, right? They could be like, oh my God, my friend was like, whatever, let me like share it with her. Or, oh, this friend of mine works in HR. I mean, like, people know lots of people. Do not write anybody off because they don't fit the box.
Right.
Okay. If I wrote my husband off, like if I had looked at like my husband didn't fit any, like zero. We've been married 21 years. There was not like nothing. Okay. And he's awesome. Like we obviously have a very good relationship. Okay. Like you can't do it based on these things that you make up. I mean, you got to give people a chance because you want someone to give you a chance, right? I mean, we all got to break somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Well, because we always talk about body language, and I'm sure in some post that I made about us talking today, I probably mentioned that we would talk about networking body language. But so, is there anything that you've noticed or, that you think is either like, oh, that's strange or, ooh, like they shouldn't be doing that, or, either or body language successes. I mean, on the other side, there can be like, wow, I'm so drawn to that person. And it's probably because of XYZ. So as loving those one-on-one and small group interactions, what can people do physically to make it easier or be ingratiating?
I was thinking about that when you shared that question with me. I mean, the one thing that drives me crazy is people that are not respectful of my personal space. So like if you're in a room, like give me space. You know what I mean? Like don't get in my face. That doesn't work for me. And now we're all so used to being 6 feet apart. So it's like,
even like, I think everybody's bubbles, particularly
right,
when we
like,
go
I'm
back.
a very huggy person. So like when I went to the networking events and I knew my friends, like I'd hug them, you know what I mean? So that'd be interesting. So I think it's knowing that, but like, give someone a real handshake. Like don't be wishy-washy with your hand. Like nobody likes a wishy-washy handshake. Like shake the hand.
Yeah.
But
so it sounds like it's coming down to just being mindful and purposeful, right? About everything, right? So being
aware,
having the good mindset and coming in with a good focus. I know some people that say, that will put a thing like, my goal for this, networking event is to make 3 new connections. That's it. There's going to be 100 people there, but I'm just going to look for 3 new people that I don't know. And just so to keep the pressure, as you say, it takes pressure off to be like, okay, I can meet 3 new people. That's not a big deal. But when people go into it thinking I have to make a $10,000 or a connection that will turn into a $10,000 sale or something, well,
you're going to fail. That's not going to happen. I mean, maybe you get lucky. The other thing I used to tell people when I would be like the table facilitator is take the 12 cards and pick 1 or 2 and have coffee with them. Every month I'd be like 1 or 2 new people. And even if it was like the only time I ever talked to them, at least you got to know them a little better. And you also learn, like, it was interesting. I mean, now people use LinkedIn, but at the time people weren't using LinkedIn as much. So I used to like do my follow-ups through LinkedIn and like half the people weren't on LinkedIn. And I'm like, okay, but you're networking. Like, I don't understand. Or then I stopped and I'd be like just sending them a direct email and I'd get like 25% response rate. And I'm like, okay, why are you at this event? Like, I don't even understand, but it's good because then you know where to spend your time or not. But I would thank everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be the table. I'd like, oh, so glad you came. It was great sitting at your table. I hope you found it valuable. If you have questions about the group, it wasn't about me at all. You know, and so getting involved in like a committee or something within the group, it was great because I joined the hospitality committee because like I didn't know anybody. So then I could just be the greeter and be like, oh, hi, I have to come up and say hi to you because I'm like,
Yeah, one of the groups that I'm in, they were like, we need a couple more people to be like on basically like that greeter committee. And it says like when somebody joins that you are like the first person that basically contacts them to say hello or to tell them about the group and all that. I was like, yes, please, because holy cow, then I don't have to rely on figuring out who's new, because sometimes you go to these and it's been a couple months and you feel like, well, are they really new or are they going to be like, wow, I've been going to events for 3 months now, so, but now I get, to meet them first off, and it's putting a little more pressure on me to make sure that I was relatively new to the group. So I was asking the organizers, do you have some kind of a spreadsheet that has just like name, business, one little description of what it is, if it's not obvious, if it doesn't say, financial services in the name, so that I know what they do. Because then when I meet with those people and I want to make connections within the group right away, it's like, okay, it's only the people that I've met so far. It's not, if you have a list that I feel like I can make even better connections of like, oh, you say that you're going to be selling your house and you're looking for a stager. Oh, let me connect you to, this person and this person versus, oh, let me think really hard, about it. Yeah.
And you don't have to connect with everybody. That's okay. You know what I mean? Like some people you don't click with. I mean, the great thing about getting older is it's like, not everyone's going to like me. That's okay. That's okay. One thing I was thinking about though is, at the group we were in, you'd have like a member badge on your name tag. And so I would just go looking for people without that member thing on there because they were obviously guests or not members. So then I'd go up to them. Well, that's a great way to just be a friendly face. Do you know what I mean? But I was thinking, gosh, it'd be kind of fun on name tags to have like your little headline, like your LinkedIn headline, like on your name tag. So like you get a little better sense of not your title, but like what you do. Like tax advisor is pretty boring, but like my headline's so much better, right?
Right. It's so much more fun. Like, yeah. No, that's true. We always should do, a little bit longer on that, but it'd be fun. You could start that trend on the ones where you go and you have to do your own, sticky one, because they never stay on. So somebody will find it somewhere and it'll have to.
Who's this person? I know. It's like I had to think about what kind of clothes to wear. You couldn't wear a leather jacket because you didn't want your name tag on your leather jacket.
Right. Or the ones that are pins that, they give you the plastic sleevey ones and you're going to have to pin through something.
It always made me upset. I'm like, I don't like it.
Women, we think about these things. We want the little clippy one or the magnet ones are the best.
Something here.
Yeah. Magnet ones are the best because then they're not, they're not hurting anything. So one other thing about body language for everybody, and Lisa has been a great example this whole time of just staying open. Have you noticed during this entire conversation, she has stayed open? There hasn't been, any kind of arm crossing or even gesturally. She's kept her gestures in the frame. If you notice that, if you're networking virtually, so that we don't wonder what's happening if she's gesturing below. Like, it's just weird. We feel like it's strange when you can't see anybody gesture. And we know with men, they tend to gesture less anyway. And we usually don't see them gesture on LinkedIn. On virtual calls. But for women, particularly because we do gesture and we tend to gesture higher, do that. Embrace that as women, that we gesture higher and that we can see your movements. But for networking, particularly when you're standing around and you're looking for that person that doesn't have anybody to talk to, you can't go up to them with kind of slouchy, whatever kind of body language. You'd be like, hey, you want to be my friend? I mean, it doesn't, they're going to be like, oh, this is like, why are, they're going to be questioning, why are you coming up to me really closed off? Like if you're not open. So be really open with if you've got a lot of stuff that you came in with, put it down. Give it to coat check so that you don't have your coat and your bag and your briefcase and all these things covering yourself. And then you've got a glass in your hand and you're carrying all this stuff. So you can't shake hands even if you wanted to. That may be a new COVID thing to make sure that you can't shake hands with people. I don't know. We'll find out. Or whether it's going to be the elbow or the fist bump when we get back. But, just stay open. And even in any interaction that you're having, whether it's your office meeting or you're meeting with a client virtually or in person, really, it is the simplest thing we can do. But just remember to stay open. It's for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's more warm for them because they see that you're open, but it also lets you take in and then respond to the nonverbals that you're receiving from them. So that's another thing that Lisa does really well, is like the empathetic movement and what other people call mirroring, is letting that happen organically. And then you'll notice you're doing something similar to the other person, and it doesn't have to be forced. And it creates that warmth and that relationship in a very natural way. And you want it to be natural because you want to know at the end of the meeting, you want to go out of it thinking, was that good? Do I really like this person? Or, was it probably not such a good fit? If you're forcing it to be a good fit, then you don't know whether it was good or not. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make, because they come back and they're like, oh, that was a really great meeting. I think I'm going to get a client out of this or something. But they were just misreading the situation because they were kind of going in so eager that they were forcing that relationship versus letting it happen. So kudos, Lisa, you're
I had a good
right
teacher. I took several of your videos and watched you. So when I met you, Allison, I was like, this is gold mine. I think I said to you at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm like, you have a gold mine, because body language is important in general, but when you are stuck on video, how do you differentiate yourself? Because it gets boring really fast. The other thing
and there's so much of and going on now. It's funny. I mentioned probably in several of these LinkedIn lives that there were a lot of calls last March, and now I'm getting calls again because everybody got to this place of putting up with, for lack of a better word, right? Putting up with what they were seeing, or the poor behavior, or people doing 6 different things while they were on the call, turning off their cameras, and it's obvious they're answering emails or texting or something during the call. This really bad behavior that started to become the norm. And now there are businesses that are like, okay, we're still in it. We're not going to let people get away with that anymore. And now they're almost backtracking back to the beginning of like, what are the protocols and what are our expectations as a business for how we're interacting, particularly if our sales force is going to be virtual longer than we thought, or if it's going to be hybrid meetings where some of the people in your meeting are virtual and some of them are live. There were, lots of companies that were already doing that, but I think a lot of those companies already had, because it was new at the time that they adopted it, they set up those protocols. All these companies that went virtual overnight didn't necessarily take the step back to go, okay, so what does this mean to our culture? What are the protocols that we need to set in place? So I think there's a lot of companies coming back to it. So excited for, coming into after summer. Summer is usually lighter for me anyway, but going back to by the fall, having a lot of things lined up, as you say.
I think one of the things that I'm learning and dealing with my family is like, how do you re-engage? Like, I think we've forgotten how to behave with other people. Do you mean? It's like, it's so different. You're like, what, like, I feel kind of awkward still. So I think we're going to have to be even more mindful of what's going on. And the other thing that I've really learned as I've gotten older is one, smile. I mean, a smile definitely makes you much more professional. Like, just laugh at yourself if you're doing something wrong and be like, okay, that was stupid. Okay, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what we're doing.
If you get photobombed by your kids, it's okay to be like, well, 3-year-old's not wearing pants again. Sorry, everybody. You just let it go, right?
Let it go. And even if you meet no one at an event, okay, you figured out that is not the organization that's the right fit for you. So that was a success, right? Like, I just think having the right mindset for everything. I mean, just everything is, people like, oh, I'm not good at numbers. I can't do it. I'm like, no, you don't understand taxes because you were never taught about them. So you might not like numbers, but I don't know anyone that doesn't like understanding how they can be in business or make more money. Like you can tell me you don't, come on, give me a break. You like numbers. Okay.
Right. Instead of calling it deductions, maybe they just need to call it, making more money. Right.
Right.
People would be interested in that conversation when you're talking
versus taxes. You're like, it's like the worst term.
Right. Well, everybody has a horror story about the IRS. I mean, it's just of being audited or whatever. My second or third year in business, we got the audit letter, kind of, it's like, seriously, like how, like there's hardly anything happening,
But then you shouldn't worry. If you've done it correctly, there's nothing to worry about.
And it turned out, as you're saying, it was absolutely fine. Like we had every single receipt. We had every, I was panicked, because I'm an LLC. And so this goes, it's like that personal, whatever, sole proprietorship thing. You do it with your husband. My husband does our taxes. So it goes with his, right? It goes with our personal tax. So that's more why I was freaked out.
Right.
But, I went through and found all the receipts or whatever. And we just, turned them all in, and it turned out we were fine. But, and I remember one time my mom was audited. My parents were both school teachers, and, they picked the wrong person because she's like, keeps everything, right? I mean, they had somebody else doing their actually, filing for them, but she had everything. And it turned out they owed her money.
Oh, I like that.
After her meeting, she got a check. So it was because of things that she didn't know that she could have, deducted or whatever. So, and
that's what I teach.
Mindset and preparedness, no matter what, right? Whether it's a networking event or whether it's doing your taxes, have a good mindset about it and find somebody that you could talk to and ask the right questions and
get help. I mean, I will tell you, you have to invest in good quality help. I think that, yes, I want you to understand how taxes work, but if you're in business, you need an accountant. You need an accountant, and you probably need an attorney, and you probably need a financial advisor. And, I heard a business coach. And I mean, like, I have a team of people, and I more than make up what I pay them in what they provide. Do you mean even my clients, like I give them value beyond what they pay me. And I mean, my time isn't well spent. Now I have to have an understanding of it all. Like you need to understand how your, P&L sheet works but like, you don't have to do it. Right. So people are like, oh, I can't afford it. You really can't afford not to.
That was the first person I paid outside of it was the accountant.
Oh,
right.
People laugh all the time. I love my work because here's the thing. Everybody needs tax help. I will always have a job. Always have a job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's not, this is the funny thing that I learned is that there's a huge shortage of good quality independent accountants. Apparently, like most don't have a personality.
Well, because it becomes very, very transactional. Like you send them the stuff, they send you your thing back. I mean, it's like, you might as well use, I don't know, some kind of big box,
That to me is a tax preparer. I call myself a tax advisor. So like the tax return is the least important part of what I do. I do it to build the trust so that I can teach you, right? Because it's like at the time we're doing the tax returns, there's very little left we can do, right? But if you understand, I mean, I've done a series the last, week 2 on LinkedIn of like, before you put your tax return away, here are the things you should look at. So like your refund, least important line on the whole thing. Like, other than if it's really big, you better adjust your withholding because that's a bad idea. Like, here's your total tax line. Add that to your state taxes. Add that to your Social Security, Medicare. Do you know how much you're paying? Maybe you should pay attention. Did you make a penalty? Do you need to do it? Like, do you have a carry forward? I mean, there's all these things, and no one teaches them. They just sign off. And I'm like, I hate that. I hate that. It's like, I want the teaching, but the tax returns are boring. I mean, let's just get real. Nobody likes taxes. No. But like, and that's the key thing to remember with networking. People do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? That takes time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's not going to be a one-shot deal. It's going to be getting to know. So on that note, since we're pretty much at the end of our time, make sure that you connect with Lisa. What's your regular, do you want to tell them like your regular email or your website or what?
Well, it's all very easy. My website is my name, www.lisaniser.com. My hashtag is Be Niser. So you have to be nice. Which is great because now people actually say my name right because they would never say Niser. They're like that.
Right. They're like, is it Niser? Is
Right. They never say it. I'm like, nope, Niser. It can be Niser. And then my email is just the same, lisa@niser.com. So it's good to have a unique last name.
Yeah, that's great.
And there's information on my class on that Lisa Niser website. There's a tab that says Taxes for Entrepreneurs class. I need to update. My website is very just basic or whatever, but it works right now. So like I have to upgrade it, but it's not fancy.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to getting back to in-person meetings so that you and I can meet for coffee and chat for real, which would be fantastic. But thank you so much for being here and talking about networking and just how to be a better connector and human business owner. I mean, I think that's just right.
Really
we just have to get back to that a little bit, and it's going to be a little weird for a little while, but it'll be interesting to see 6 months from now where we're at come whatever, come Christmas or come the start of 2022, just to see where.
Just be yourself. That's the best thing I could tell people is, you know what, if you're not yourself, you're going to attract people that you don't enjoy working with. That's not good for you either. I mean, the money is not good if you don't like the work. So like just being you, there's enough business for all of us. There really is.
It truly is. Right?
We can all be successful. There is more than enough work for all of us. We do not have to get petty.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. You know what? I don't even think I have a guest scheduled next time. I'll probably be putting out some feelers, or if anybody wants coached live, I thought that might be fun to do like a first impression session, but on live, if anybody's brave enough to do that. And we'll talk about body language in real time. Might be fun. So we'll see you all. We'll see you all next week. And otherwise, have a great one, everybody. Enjoy some sunshine.